Now, Bolivia is calling for cooperation with adjoining Brazil and Paraguay to control fires raging near the border areas of the three countries. Bolivian officials estimate the fires have burnt out more than 450,000 hectares in a region critical for crops and cattle. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro accuses France and other European countries of having a colonial mentality, saying they're using the Amazon fires for political gain. Well, Nigel is the Chief Program Officer with the Rainforest Alliance, and he joins me now from New York. Now, Nigel, the crisis in the Amazon is certainly turning into a political one, both at home and internationally.
Absolutely. This is one of the most serious crises that Brazil has faced internationally in recent years. And it was dramatic to see President Macron saying yesterday that this needs to be top of the agenda for the upcoming G7 meeting this weekend. I think that was a very bold move by President Macron. He is putting aside some of the politics on this and basically saying, look, this is so serious. We have to come together. We have to discuss this. We've got to do something about it.
Meanwhile, back at home, it's the conservationists that blame Brazil's president for troubles in the Amazon, saying that he encouraged loggers and farmers to clear the land. How is he defending himself?
Well, he's not defending himself very well. He's still, up to yesterday, seemed to be taking this as a bit of a joke, pointing towards colonial attitudes, trying to blame NGOs for starting the fires, which was really an absurd statement that he himself admitted he had no evidence for whatsoever. It's time for him to get serious and recognize that this isn't something that he can brush aside.
And in getting serious, he's having to deal with the crisis at home. He's now calling for international help, saying that his country alone cannot battle the fires on its own.
Well, it's great that he's asking for help, and I know that the world will be ready to support him in addressing this. But it's quite ironic because when he was elected, when he came into office at the beginning of this year, he systematically reduced the budgets of key agencies in Brazil that are responsible for enforcing the law, which would have prevented a lot of these fires in clearing if he hadn't done that, almost certainly. And they have fired many of the heads of the enforcement agencies state by state across Brazil since he took office, putting in place people who will be more sympathetic to agricultural interests and so on. So it's quite remarkable to hear him saying this, but we have to welcome this. And of course, the world is ready to help if that's what he would like. But Brazil has the resources, I would say, to address this problem. And many Brazilians were also saying that yesterday.
Well, what has the international response been to his dealing of this crisis?
Well, this crisis is fairly recent. So the response so far, I think, has been one of shock, of deep concern, trying to figure out how we can all work together with a Brazilian government, which has, at least until the last few hours perhaps, been saying we don't want to engage with the rest of the world on environmental issues. The thing here is that there's a lot of expertise and capacity in Brazil to address this problem. What viewers may not realize is that Brazil actually achieved a greater reduction in forest loss in the Amazon over the period following 2005 than any other country in the world has ever done. Brazil is extremely adept at dealing with this challenge and knows how to do it. The president needs to work with those experts, not dismiss them. He fired one of the top experts just a couple of weeks ago, for example. He needs to bring them back in, work with them, provide them with the funding that the Brazilian government was giving them before. And I think they can make rapid progress with that.
Because
the rest of the world can certainly help, but they actually know how to deal with this problem
Well, in
themselves.
recent years, the figures haven't been too great. Just how bad are this year's fires compared to previous years?
Well, the shocking thing with the data we're seeing this year is that it's deteriorated a lot compared to last year. But historically, the numbers have actually been much worse. Brazil managed to reduce deforestation in the Amazon by about 70% between 2005 and 2012. And the key to that was really good use of satellite technology, using their own satellite systems, combined with effective law enforcement by their own law enforcement agencies. They know how to do this. They have the resources. They have the expertise. The president just needs to recognize that this is a priority.
So you think that it's political will. How long do you think it will take for some action to be taken?
Well, action could be taken immediately. The part of the problem, what has happened this year in Brazil, is that the president himself went on record several times, basically giving the nod to farmers and others to illegally invade and clear and burn the forest. Basically said, we're going to turn a blind eye to this. We're not going to enforce the law. This is our forest, our land. We need to be clearing it to develop Brazil. That's not the way it works. Brazil has vast amounts of land that are already cleared where they could be growing more crops more intensively. So he could immediately send a signal, as soon as today, saying, okay, we're gonna sort this out. Law enforcement is going to crack down. This needs to stop. Behavior would change immediately if that happened.
Just lastly, I mean, the world is seeing these images of the world's lungs being damaged on fire. Just how much damage is being caused to the environment there? How much do we rely on the Amazon for oxygen, water and habitats?
It's enormously significant. So the Amazon is home to more species of animals and plants on Earth than any other ecosystem. It is key to regulation of the global climate, both as a carbon sink, absorbing carbon from the atmosphere when it's well managed, emitting carbon and methane and other gases into the atmosphere when it's cleared and burned. And then what people may not realize so much is it's a huge water pump. Imagine 3 million square miles of trees that are sucking water up from the soil and pumping it into the atmosphere. This is creating the rainfall, not only that supports Brazil's agriculture, but it's important to agriculture across the entire hemisphere and as far away as Europe and Africa and probably Asia as well. So messing with this system affects patterns of rainfall around the planet. And that's a very, very significant issue for all of us.
Indeed, Nigel, we've seen so much reaction on social media as well. It's not surprising. Nigel Sizer from the Rainforest Alliance, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.